is March 1st, 2022. And I'm Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and I am with the lovely Lorraine Appleyard. And your site is?
I'm at Soul Solutions, soullightsolutions.com.
We have an international bridge going here across the eastern Atlantic seaboard. I'm outside of New York. Lorraine, I don't know where that came from, sorry, is in Toronto. And we are here because I certainly have had a lot of requests from people, and I suspect you have too, for some kind of insight into what is going on. And in fact, you got in touch with me this weekend.
I know, Kathy, and that was really just very lovely how this kind of unfolded, because I did get in touch with you to pick your brain, because I have absolutely had people connect with me regarding what's happening, and I have been connecting with my own guides and this, and I was like, what's Kathy's feelings? What's the stars saying about this? Let's, and then she's like, let's have a chat. And I was like, yes, let's. And I really wanted to have this opportunity to be able to put some guidance out there for those that are, we're living this experience right now collectively.
And very much online.
Absolutely.
Because, so I am monitoring the comments, and I'm hello. Someone I know has said hello. All right, this is an extraordinarily extreme time in both directions. So would you like for me to give like a short summary of the two extremes that are happening?
So let's give the short summary and then let's dive in deeper, okay? Because I feel the short summary, people are going to get that, and then let's dive in deeper into some of the energy that's at play and some of the deeper nuances that we may not really be aware of.
Well, there's one that we're all seeing in one of its forms, but it's got another form that I want to point out. A lot is happening in the very end of the sign of Capricorn, which has to do with institutions and shoulds and ways of doing things. There is a lineup of various planets have been meeting with Pluto, the god of death and rebirth, since December. And this week, the goddess of love and the god of war are meeting the god of death.
Oh, I just got huge chills down my spine, Kathy. That is so illustrating what's going on.
So this is extremely bottom line energy.
Yes.
And it has very much to do with long-term goals and what's lasting, and about the money. We'll come back to that in a second. So that's on one hand. And the other is absolutely magical, transcendent, expansive, beautiful, out to lunch, airy-fairy, magical outpourings that
we've seen that.
You've seen that. That is exactly right. And it is encapsulated, it is solidified by the new moon on March 2nd, which has the biggest influence close to the earth, adding to everything, which could enhance empathy, connection, the solidarity that we've been seeing growing, and also the power of energetic work, the power of prayers, the power of magic. I'm in a group of witches that has been doing spell casting ever since this started, and everyone's posting their altars of protection, and it is enough to make you weep with what is going on. So this could also make a whole lot, both of these influences could make a whole lot more in each extreme. The Jupiter conjunct the Pisces new moon tomorrow on the 2nd could bring an outpouring of tears, incredible martyring, incredible sorrow, really bittersweet stuff. actions spiraling way out of control and touching many, 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 many people. This is a ripple effect. It could just as easily bring incredible compassion, healing, caring, and we've been seeing this, and linking together that will play out well into April, because Jupiter is on his way to a once in more than 150-year meeting with the planet Neptune, utter transcendence, which could be huge martyrdom, could also be huge inspiration, guidance, magic, and that's in April. So we have this, and everybody can tap into this. So that's a spoiler of the good stuff coming. But back to the framework, all of this is happening in a very bottom line earthly framework. Capricorn is unemotional. It's extraordinarily cold, calculating, and unconcerned with emotions.
And does that not illustrate there completely Mr. Putin's personality? I mean, we see that embodied right now, do we not?
We see that embodied. And what is also happening, it's birthing a global alliance of a nature that people didn't think. I mean, Switzerland has stepped off of its legendary neutrality, and it's actually joined in the financial sanctions. And Germany has abandoned its pacifist stance that it's had since the end of World War II, and it's sending weapons. But on a bigger picture, look at the mobilization that has happened internationally that acts out the Capricorn, because it's global institutions, the EU, the UN Security Council, financial institutions, the fact that the SWIFT, which is a money transfer system,
Yes.
has shut out, they're doing war, Mars using money, Venus using big money, Venus, Pluto, and they're targeting the oligarchs. That's Venus, Mars, Pluto. Astrology in action.
And when I think, because I always think about in terms of energy. And so when I think about this, I literally I'm thinking about, as we're talking about, the embodiment of that Capricorn, of that unemotional sort of action, which is really, and it's really very, for lack of maybe a better term, very three-dimensional, very sort of grounded, very sort of denser energy. And then we have this higher energy that's coming in that, and really to me, this is about the process of ascension that Earth is experiencing, I believe. And because we can see this in the collective nature, we can see this with the coming together, with prayer, with sending out our love, and with the aid of these countries, like you're talking about, putting their goodwill, putting their energy, putting their all of their intentions to the betterment. And like you said, not being neutral, not taking that position of inaction, which is really action in itself, but choosing to take action for the betterment. So that in itself is really ascending to a higher nature. It's ascending to the higher energies. And so what is that planet that's taking action of that?
Mars.
Mars.
Very tangible action. And I will add that a lot of this has been building. A lot of what's happening has been building since early December. Venus has had 2 meetings with Pluto in December. Mercury, the planet of our information flow, our minds, our thoughts, has had 3 meetings with Pluto. And for all of February, Venus and Mars were pretty much traveling together, and they met on February 16th. Usually Venus and Mars meet once a year. They're meeting to 3 times, depending on how you count it. And they're doing something very, very interesting. Now, what's important to know is that Venus, known as the love goddess, is what we want, our desires, our what we value, and Mars is how we go about getting them. So there's a unity of value and desire and drive and follow through. And this was exact on February 16th. On the 6th, Venus, Mars, and Pluto will be exact. So the cosmic lovers will then join in with the overlord of desire, like obsessive level, non-conscious, feral, and money, huge amounts, hidden money, hidden powers. And there will be a sharpening, a cutting away, and intensifying. And as soon as that happens, Venus and Mars change their clothes. They move into the very first degree of Aquarius after they have this. Actually, they have their meeting with Pluto. Sorry, that's on the 3rd. And then on the 6th, they switch into the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is very different energy from Capricorn.
Yeah.
Aquarius is observer mode. It is global collectives. It is progressive. It is the greater community. And what is even more important about this is in December 2020, Jupiter, the guy that expands everything, the guy that's in charge of tomorrow's new moon, and Saturn, the Lord of order, the old ways, rules, call him the parent of the planet of adulting, met at the very first degree of Aquarius and put a new framework of potential into our world, into our psyche. And now on the 6th, after going through this purifying process, oh, I just got an image. They meet at the same place where Jupiter and Pluto set this potential up in December 2020. So something becomes within our grasp. It was more an intellectual construct in December 2020. And then it's something we can do, we can build new alliances. I am betting that the flurry of applications to join the European Union that have been sent this week will get acted on really quickly. I think we will see a new restructuring of a lot in the global community. But on a personal level, it's making me think of, and sorry, everybody, this is the way I look at things. Mozart's opera, The Magic Flute, takes the two lovers, Tamina and Pamina, through a series of tests. They have various trials, and their final one is the trial walking through fire, and they're blindfolded, and they come out of it, and la la la, they get to be together. And that's kind of what this is. We've gone through this incredible trial by ordeal in the last 3 months.
That's right. And we talk about we're talking about things happening collectively, and this is what I feel that people don't really fully maybe appreciate, that it's not just happening in one particular area of the world, that this is actually happening on a collective level. This is happening with all of our consciousness. And there is that battle between wanting to keep old structures, wanting to keep old paradigms, institutions, and moving on into this unity, which really is, to me, is unity consciousness. That is essential. And I know people with their logical, rational mind will fight that because they have this this manner of thinking of being insulated and of being sort of individual and singular. But with this energy coming in, this really is understanding that we are all connected, and this is, to me, it's higher energy that's coming in. And when we talk about the good that's happening, the prayer, the altars of protection, the putting out that those intentions, that is all really very powerful. It's also starting to recognize, I feel, starting to really illustrate the power of prayer, the power of our souls. That's how I look at it. The power of our souls, the power of our divine nature, and how we can bring about change just by harnessing that energy, harnessing those intentions. And I feel that when you talk about astrology, it lines up so much with, to me, the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. And when we talk about the ascension and the how divinity is always emanating down on us, always encouraging this growth that we that we can obtain, but it's only through small shifts of consciousness that are we able to glean some of this awareness. And that's how I look at things. And so although it may be a frightening time for many, it also is a time of unity. I want to go back to that talk, to what you were describing about martyrdom, and how was it that you said it? Because this is really very significant, and that is something that maybe we want to understand more about, and how that energy may unfold, and even how we may view it.
Well, here's an example of martyrdom. Very early in the fighting, the Russians were approaching a bridge, and it needed to be blown up, and one soldier agreed. He volunteered. He went. He blew the bridge up, even though he knew he would not be able to get out of the explosion. So he gave his life to basically save a lot of people who would have been hit by that bridge. So that's one example. And there will be, I mean, others could be certain people having targets on their backs and being, made into a political martyr. We're hoping that doesn't happen. But a companion piece to this is spiritual leaders emerging, somebody arising, and look at what has happened with the president of Ukraine.
Tremendous, right? Tremendous.
And people make jokes about, well, the man was a comedian and an actor. Excuse me, I don't know if you have dealt with comedians, particularly people who do stand-up. They have guts because they dare to do and say things that the others of us just go, oh my God, what? So
that's a good point.
And he has a karmic link with the chart of Russia, which I will discuss in a separate endeavor. I'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to do like heavy chart work. Too many people have asked, so I will be, and it'll probably be a freestanding video rather than a live because it's going to require lots of thought. Anyway, last year set him up for this, basically, in his life path. And yes, he's got some very, very heavy things going on, but look at what he has done, and look at how the Ukrainian people have stood up. And we've got women, old people,
Remarkable.
Grandfathers showing up, people from other countries coming in to fight. World Kitchen, I believe is what it's called. There's a chef who tends to show up when there are refugees or people in need, and he's already set his kitchen up in Poland for the refugees.
But this outpouring of goodwill, this outpouring of love, and we must. I truly believe that we are the hands of God, and when we have that outpouring of goodwill, we're allowing divine forces to work through us. And I feel it's really very important that in times of uncertainty, we must look for the light. We must look for that higher power that is allowed to work through us. And again, I want to also be able to remind those that may be watching that we have to be able to remember to ask for things, that when we pray, to be able to ask for divine forces, I feel, and for the higher powers to be able to act upon us for the highest good, because we do have free will. And we must remember that in asking, we're given permission for these interventions. I feel that way.
And that certainly fits with the energies of the Pisces new moon.
Thank
Lord, make me an instrument of thy will or thy peace. That would fit.
you.
Also, tiny acts combined with other tiny acts have huge impact.
Making
Also,
that ripple effect.
the ripple effect. You have no idea where this moon is going to take your energies, your love, your faith, your good hope. And even as simple as putting a little photograph of a sunflower up on social media. There is so much of that going on. I swear that's been an unintentional spell. All of the posts in support. Yeah, like sometimes you can think when a disaster strikes, like, yeah, what good does this really do? Well, I think we've been seeing it energetically bolster what's been going on the ground. And part of it is so many people have links to Ukraine.
That's a good point. But I'm looking at it from, I'm listening to analysts and they're talking about how, for instance, Putin was not able to accurately assess the will of the people, the spirit of the people. And all of these gestures feed our spirit. All these gestures provide that energy to be able to strengthen the spirit. And so even though, like you said, it's just a little image that you're putting out, is collectively we're having this experience and collectively we're putting out this energy for those that are in this particular situation to be able to be strengthened and to have that energy to support them, and just to know that they have the world really supporting them in this.
And let's go back to the concept of values, the concept of the Venus, Mars, Pluto triple conjunction, making us get absolutely real and committed to what is most important. And let's compare and contrast. On the one hand, we have power grab, land grab, resource grab going on. On the other hand, we have, oh my God, this is my home, soul, spirit level uprising. What is the greater force? And what's been happening in the fighting? Yes, Ukraine has taken horrible, horrible hits, but they have held the Russians back.
They've done much better than anyone might have anticipated. And for what reason? Spirit, will, divine intervention.
A greater force. People, you can joke and say, oh yeah, love, oh, you're so airy fairy. Well, are we not seeing it on the ground?
In real time.
In real time.
Yes. And what's powerful to me is understanding how it lines up in astrology, how this is being forecast. And so it really, to me, it illustrates that emanation of the divine nature of, beaming down on us, and the collective growth, the ascension, the consciousness that everyone we experience. It is a collective. And those that sort of want to stay back in a lower consciousness, they fight against it. They fight against that structure of that change. I feel it probably, change is frightening, right? And it's natural to want to hold on to what we understand, to what we know, but that's the Capricorn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've always done it this way, blah, blah, blah. And part of what's going on Russia's side is reconfiguring its borders to what they have been. Russia has just undergone its Saturn return. And the planet, it's now been in existence for one entire cycle of Saturn going around the sun, and its Saturn return was actually last year. So now it's starting again. Like, what have we learned? What are our structures? What's our foundation? And the leaders' response during this has been, we're taking the land back. And that was when the USSR became the USSR. Sorry, 1991, when the Russian Federation was founded. So this isn't something that just erupted out of nowhere, because the Crimea invasion, which was Ukraine before Russia took it back, was in 2014. So this is something that has been going on for a while, and it's about money and power, not about are these things, without paying attention to how things are interrelated. And getting back to the fact that so many have ties to Ukraine, Russians are related to people in Ukraine. Russians have relatives in Ukraine. Ukrainians have relatives in Russia. And at least one battalion of soldiers or troop, or I don't sure what the right name for the group is, but one group of Russian soldiers very on gave themselves up because they thought they were on a reconnaissance mission, gathering intel, and they didn't know they were supposed to kill people.
And that also will go to the will of the Russian fighters, and they don't have the same will to win because they're fighting against their own family, really. Mm-hmm. And so we go back to the power of the will, and who has the stronger will here? Who will overcome in the long run? Right? That the Ukrainians will.
In the long run. Yeah. Now, I do want to also point out that this new moon tomorrow in Pisces on March 2nd does have a very, very strong overtone of blurring boundaries. And that can work in a number of ways. It could be blurring geographical boundaries. So perhaps it will look, at least at first, as if Russia is actually getting territory. Or it could be blurring the boundaries between, energetic boundaries between countries, and making it harder and harder and harder for this conflict to continue among the people. Especially, my understanding is, and I have heard this from a relative who is Russian, that the basic Russian people, I mean, she's almost 30. She is 30, I think. So she's grown up completely in the Russian Federation, and said they were brought up that war was horrible, And she is finding it unthinkable, not only that a war is going on, but that her country is the aggressor in this. And I think that's a widespread.
I agree. So their consciousness is different. They've just grown up in a different setting, in a different awareness. And so now to be brought into this, they're not in agreement that their own will isn't there. Energetically, that affects how things play out just by them resisting this particular conflict.
Now that they can't get access to cash,
yes,
and all kinds of things are shut down, and that martyrdom, sacrifice, I think the Russian people are part of what will be martyred in this, unfortunately.
It is unfortunate. I don't like to think of anyone as in terms of martyrdom, but there is a sacrifice for a higher good that does occur, I do believe. And although it doesn't, it doesn't mean it's any easier to take. It does occur because there is this sacrifice that is occurring, like you said, the martyrdom.
And then there's also the sacrifice of the oligarchs having their fortunes
having their stream
decimated. Yeah, and that may be where the pivot point is in all of this, actually.
And again, when I think of this energetically, so they're having this stream of money, which is really just energy is being tied off, and that's the life force that we have here on planet Earth. And so they have to, that's not going to keep on that way. It's just not manageable, right? So and I feel that no one else supports this war. We talk about the oligarchs, that they're not in support of it either, because they also have started, they're living in a newer sort of environment, and they no longer identify with quite the old ways of that paradigm.
Mm-hmm. And since you say paradigm, we're moving into the new one. this week when Venus and Mars enter Aquarius. The theme song, everyone, is from the late 60s. Maybe it was 1970, 69.
Oh,
Hair, the tribal love rock musical. Dawning of the Age of Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine. And I have a video of that I will of a performance I was in that I will put in the comments for this. A bunch of after the 2016 election, a group of performers in New York City decided we would deal with our existential anxiety by performing that song on camera.
That's lovely, and so that's really wonderful. I want to hone in. Was something that was not lost on me through this conflict is the fact that it's occurring right after COVID, right after global pandemic. And you were talking about the energy of the planet, saying like for us to be able to really hone in on values and what it is that you really, really want? What is it that we really desire? And to me, I find it really synchronistic that this particular occurrence is happening really just as we're moving out of a mass global pandemic. And energetically, I feel that also really brings something to our awareness, or that we should be reflecting upon that in terms of a higher nature involved.
I hadn't made that connection. That's very interesting. Also, I understand that Putin requires people to isolate for a period of time before he will meet with them physically.
Right.
So he's still personally operating under extreme COVID precaution protocols, but all those people living in the subways now are not.
Yeah, no. And so when I talk about, so what was the planet that you were saying was asking about us really our values and what is it that we really want? What is the planet that takes?
Oh, Venus rules our values. And since December, she has been in the sign of Capricorn, which is very cold and calculating and looks at things in terms of durability. And I've had people question this lately. I've been doing this for years, and someone finally said, I don't understand what you're talking about. This is Santa baby territory. There's a song, Santa Baby, where a woman is asking her sugar daddy, she's asking Santa to bring her a yacht, a mink stole, a diamond ring. She wants a deed to property. So Venus in Capricorn wants stuff that will appreciate in value, that is durable, and that will be there for the long haul. And it's absolutely unemotional, very cold, very calculating.
And that's yes, I understand that. And so when we're talking about the energy right now and having a look at our values and what it is that we really want, the material values, perhaps we didn't learn that all through COVID, because COVID was a time of deep reflection, a deep period of, again, isolation, and really meant to sort of look at our inner values, a lot of self-reflection. And so now here it is that action part. Okay, you've self-reflected, you've had a chance to isolate, you've had a chance to sort of contemplate your values and purpose and all that. And now here we are, and we're putting that to action. What is really important to you at this time?
Right, and you may strip a few more things down before the week is out.
That's what I'm feeling, really a stripping away of things. And that stripping process, I mean, certainly it's not without discomfort, is it?
No. But the surgery is being done with a scalpel, not with a butter knife. So it is being done with a scalpel, I'll say that much. Whether or not there's anesthesia, well, I could say this new moon may bring us some anesthesia in it all. But to your point about what COVID gave us the opportunity to do, I would say that with very few exceptions, I have observed widespread simplification of life.
Yes.
People simplifying their schedules, simplifying what they even eat, simplifying what they wear. I get all these solicitations from stores, and I just look at it and go, this is beautiful, but I don't have any place to wear this.
Yeah. Or and really being aware of the relationships that we have, the meaning of our relationships, and perhaps simplifying our social life, and getting down to really the basics. And now it's sort of like putting that into action now. Okay, so let's put your, was that saying, put your words or put your money where your mouth is. So now it's really putting that into action. Um, so let's talk about, you were talking about the power of prayer, and talking about the power of putting our energy. You mentioned the psychic protection, the altars. What do you feel we should be, that people can be doing to for those to help the situation, to make that ripple effect? How can someone that may be far removed from the conflict, how can we make a difference?
Well, there are a number of ways. One is every little uplifting of energy actually does end up amplifying. Any little act any act of compassion or kindness or gentleness that you engage in your own space, in your own community, does gradually ripple out. You can also look for meditation events, prayer events. There are lots of them. There's someone in the Gloucester area, Annette Dion, Dion, who has been hosting them almost daily. Anything you can, so anything you can do where you join in, if you want to even take some time on the new moon at 7:33 p.m. Eastern. That's a target time for massive focusing of energy for love and defense and protection. And you can just let your imagination go. You can take a bath and say, lead me in the direction that's most beneficial. You can say, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. You can just be nice to somebody. All of these little things add up.
I feel that can't be emphasized enough when we talk about really like paying it forward, putting that positive energy out, and even just the tiniest, smallest gestures of goodwill, whether that be even feeding the birds, out in your yard, and doing that with intention, knowing that you're contributing to the betterment of something. And for me, I always talk about staying in our hearts and really allowing our hearts to guide us. And so I want to encourage everyone to stay in their hearts, and to know that when we put these heartfelt thoughts out, when we put out well wishes, and to really stay away from fear. I mean, it is a frightening time, but let's be mindful that we don't want to put out that fear energy, that we want to rise above that and put out that higher energy, the higher spiritual energy. And to your point about prayers and meditations, I also have been holding prayers too. So if anyone's watching, please do look for my events, because I've been having collective events. And I also have a meditation up in my channel too, which is just one of the prayer events that recorded, so that people can participate in those prayers. And I, for one, believe very strongly in the power of prayer and the power of our intention, and putting out that thoughts of goodwill. So
will you put the links to that in
I
the
will.
comment section
I
here?
will.
And then
Yes, thank you, Kathy. I will. Yeah. I've enjoyed our chat, Kathy. It's been fantastic, and I'm really, what I find quite extraordinary is understanding just how the planetary movement really has lined up with what I was feeling intuitively, with what I was receiving from spirit, and it gives that concrete. Really, it illustrates it beautifully, and I feel that, and also we're guided by the stars. I mean, going back to ancient days, being guided by the stars and understanding. There's a reason why they call them heavenly bodies. The heavenly.
I like that.
Yeah. So we're being guided by the heavens. It's just we don't realize it. We fight and we struggle, And a lot of that is because we're seeing this through our lower conscious mind, through the mind of the man. And it's really, I feel it's about shifting our consciousness and moving into this consciousness of unity and ascension. So I've loved our chat, Kathy. Thank you so much. Your presence has uplifted me. This discussion has uplifted me. And I'm going to set these intentions that this upliftment has that ripple effect. So thank you again for allowing me to chat with you, Kathy. It's been
I always enjoy talking with you. And two things for those who are watching. First off, I will put a link also in the comments to my forecast for the Pisces new moon, because it talks a lot about the off the charts magical potential. And secondly, I will be posting a video with my discussion of a whole bunch of charts. I ran them all off a little while ago, and I'm seeing some interesting parallels. So I'm not going to do it as a live, which I had initially said I would, because I want to think this through. And also, I've got so much information, I don't want to spend 2 hours wading through it with people going, oh, get to the point. So I will get to the point. So thanks, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you all for joining today. It's been a great pleasure. I wish you all very many blessings. Bye, guys.